Hello there, my friends, and welcome to YouTube land, where we are going to rank, I guess. Not exactly. We're going to put books into a tier list from S to F. No E because, F for fail, I guess. There aren't going to be a lot in there, but there is at least a couple. And of course, S is the best one. So S, A, B, C, D, F. So, before we get to the actual list, I'm going to lay out some criteria. First off, books covers are levied against one another. So an S tier in this list doesn't necessarily mean that it is an S tier forever. I don't know. This is just for fun too, of course, but just to kind of in this, so otherwise there, maybe would have been only one or two S. Now there is at least maybe one or two more. I don't know. Like they're rated against one another. What's also taken into consideration is, well, not just this if the cover is cool, which is a huge part of it, definitely, but also how well the cover represents the book itself. And also how well that cover lives up to those expectations. Meaning that, oh, it was pretty cool. Oh, this is there's a giraffe on the cover. There is a giraffe in there. The giraffe looks like a serial murderer on the cover. It's not at all like that in the book. That might, be taken into account sometimes. So I don't know if that was clear at all, but so essentially, how cool is it? How well does it represent the book? How well does it actually match the what's actually in the book? Maybe those two are the same, but I think there's a distinction there. And if you don't get it, then it doesn't matter. I get it at least. All right. So let's start off with Randy Ellefson's 185 tips on world building. And obviously, so this one, I don't love it. I think this kind of gives off some sort of fantasy vibe and the message comes across fine, but it looks a little, I don't know, not AI, because this is older than AI pictures, but this looks a little AI or just kind of low quality, not the most. It doesn't, it kind of reflects the simplicity of the inside as well, how the text is structured. Like, it's not a very complicated book. But I actually think this is quite good, so the cover doesn't do it any justice. That's a D tier for me. Alright, so next up is Jasper T. Scott's fucking Dark Space Universe, Book 3. And we're not gonna do book 1 because it wasn't reviewed in 2025. So where does this land? And honestly, it's not that bad. I actually think this ends up in C tier. It's okay. I think it looks a little cheap, and it looks a little AI picturesque, right? But overall, it's not bad, and it is a decent representation of what happens in this novel. So I think it's fair, but not excellent. But when it comes to part 2, so that was the final part of the trilogy. This was part 2, and I actually think part 2 does a little bit better of a job. It's not excellent, but I feel as if this little, what do you call it, like the nebula, black hole, the sun, whatever the fudge that is, it draws the eye in a nice way, and I feel as if, whereas these lasers and shit look a little sheep-esque, or what are they shooting at really, and the perspective is probably a little messed up. How close are they really? That gets a little jarring to me. But this actually looks quite all right. I don't hate how this looks. Right, I think it's okay. So I would rate this in B tier. All right, so this one is just, yeah. Well, you look at it. So, The Great Gatsby, right? And if you didn't know this name, if you never heard of Fitzgerald, if you never heard of if you never heard of Great Gatsby, would you pick this up? I mean, look at this back too. It's just. I don't know who the fuck. It looks like some sort of Vegas book, but this takes place in New York during the fucking jazz age 60s, the early late 50s maybe. I don't fucking know, but it's F tier. That's terrible. I don't like that cover at all. That's just bad. If you didn't know this was Gatsby, you would never pick this up. I could see if you wanted to put this in D tier, I wouldn't yell at you, but like, fuck that. That is not a good cover in my opinion. Okay, so this one I'm going to be a little kinder to. I think this would get a higher rating from me if it represented a little bit more of what the actual novel is. It's almost like the cover was written after or just to kind of fit. But we don't see any character here really who would, yeah, maybe this was supposed to be Iona or whatever her name was. But I don't know, like there's something about this that doesn't represent like the novel itself. It's bright and all. It still looks nice, which is why I'm gonna give it a B tier. But I don't think it represents the inside too much. Like I don't feel it's bright and nice to look at, but I don't feel as if it represents the character. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on that one, but yeah, that's just my take. Okay, so this one, our pal John Williams, um, Nothing But the Night. I don't know. I don't think this is a very good cover. I guess this is the stairway where he walks up when he does some things in the end of the novella. But yeah, this does not really do it for me. This is a boring ass cover. If we compare this to some of the better covers that are eventually coming up, this is not super strong. Yeah, that's to me that is a D tier for sure. Okay, so this one is Queen of Fire and yeah, because these are from different series. If we go by like there are some different covers. So based on this one, if we go by Tower Lord, the Queen of Fire one looks like this. Can you see that? I don't think you can, maybe. But if it looks like this, but the one I'm looking at here, and the one because it's a little. So my blood song is not that one. It's another cover, and those I think look marginally better. But this dude here, he looks so boring and just weak. And even if we go by that pick, I think it's marginally better. But yeah, so let's just I hadn't planned on this, so this gets a little jarring for me. But if we go by this, where my finger is, I don't know how well you can see it. I'm gonna have to put this in D tier as well as the Tower Lord with this guy here. I can remove the post-it. I use this for Instagram. To me, this is D tier. I think this is about as boring of a cover as you can make of a fantasy book. And I think that there are examples of how you can do it much better even in this little video right here. So no bueno, Anthony Ryan. Even though Tower Lord's good, and yeah, the other covers are. I would probably push them up to B tier. They have a bit more because they don't show a face. They show essentially Valen standing like this in with a sword in Bloodsong. It's with a bow, maybe because he's practicing with Reba in Tower Lord, and Queen of Fire. You see his shoulder and an axe sort of leaned over. If it's Valen, who knows, right? But so those are better. Those would be B tier. This series with this, you know, boring ass white guy, they are a D tier for me. Okay, so here we have another pretty good cover. I should probably find it before. Oh, really? Yeah. I agree with this one. So while I don't love this book in particular, I think the cover is just really striking. If I see this, this is how I kind of gauge a little bit with a cover. If I see this in a bookstore, right, I could see myself picking this up. Never, I don't care so much about reviews and stuff because they are always, I kind of just read them and just kind of laugh at them a lot of times because usually they are so, not that these are particularly bad or nothing, but when you then read, so I have one for when we get to Dragon Fruit a little bit later. It's like really good storytelling or like masterful writing, and I'm like, are you for real? Do you think Dragon Fruit is masterful fantasy writing? I got some tips for you then, motherfucker. But yeah, obviously this is a great cover. I think this is A tier, no bullshit. It doesn't quite reach S tier because I think it's a little, I don't know, I don't think it entirely encapsulates the vibe of the novel, as beautiful as it is. But what is the wave in Tomorrow and Tomorrow? And it has to do with the game, the first game that they designed, whatever that game was called. Like fucking, I don't forgot. But the Juby Japanese-esque kid that gets swept away by a wave and shit. So it's actually thematic and makes sense. Okay, so our non-friend John Truby had trouble with this one, but I respect it as a script writing, you know, because of the seats here. It's a script writing, it's a movie writer's guide. I have a bone to pick. I think in that case, the first one we looked at with or whatever, the one with world building, I think is a better tips book than this. But each to their own, right? In terms of the cover, I think this is just shy of F tier. It's not, I wouldn't fail this, but it's D tier for me. I don't think this is a good cover at all. Do you want to read this? Like based on this cover, I'm like, yeah. So that one belongs with 185 tips of storytelling, blah blah blah, or whatever the fuck it's called. But yeah, D tier for me. So here's another non-fiction book, and I think this one does a much better job actually. It's Nigel Warburton and a little bit of philosophy. I really like this book. I think it's so good for just giving you tips for different types of philosophy. So they'll talk about something. And they'll do it for just a couple of pages, 2 or 3 pages, and then it's on to the next one. So here we got John Stuart Mill. Isn't he like the father of liberalism or whatever? Yeah, but it's real nice actually. I like the cover and I like the book itself, but I don't think this is quite S tier. But it's also like the pictures inside also match the outside, so it's clearly by the same artist or someone who's very good at emulating the style. So I think that's worth an A tier at least, because it's worth an A tier. It doesn't reach S, but definitely an A tier. But I was a little bit unsure with this one, but I think we have our first S tier, and it's this one, The Lies of Locke Lamora. And honestly, you can see like on the Valen. I don't know how well you can see these, so maybe I'll just like groan because I went with this when I'm editing this fucker. But those also look really good. These covers, Republic of Thieves Part 3, they're like super gorgeous cover from what I'm looking. But this has a lot of atmosphere. It has a nice blend of colors. It really shows a nice picture of the city of, what is it called? Camor? Yeah, Camor, I'm reading here on the back. This is a really good cover. Great use of coloring, like I said, and just that's probably Loke right here. Just, yeah, it represents what I think is in the novel quite well, and the vibe of it too. I think this is a great fucking cover. This I would pick this up in a bookstore and just be like, ooh, what's this? Never mind the George R.R. Martin blurbs on there. Those wouldn't really move the needle for me. I don't care about that. But the cover itself. Okay, so when I first looked at this, I got a little pissed, but I think the coloring saves it a lot. So this is Project Hail Mary, and I was ready to toss this in C tier, maybe even lower, but I think the coloring actually maybe, because the thing is, when I, because I could see myself picking this out because it does stand out. If we compare it um, to like this or this or this or even to this, like both of these have coloring. This one stands out a little bit at least, and it's a B tier, and this one stands out as well. But this stands out only because of how butt fucking ugly it is. So I do think keeping this in B tier is fair. C tier feels a little mean, even though I don't like this cover. It doesn't represent the novel particularly well. Look, Spaceman, I don't know. But it'll scrape by in B tier, I think, because, you know, there are worse offenders here, and it does an okay job, I think. Okay, so this is probably the nicest thing that I'll ever say about this motherfucking novel, and it is Sorcery of Thorns. Um, this is how I did it on my Instagram. I had it upside down because I you know this one makes me angrier than it should, but it's not that bad, right? It just really wasn't for me. But great covers by Jesus, Margaret Rogerson. Or I mean, she doesn't make them, right? But these are some of her other books, and they also have pretty striking colors. I mean, Vespertine or whatever it says, and but this one, an enhancement of Ravens, that was a great fucking cover, right? So this I think is actually A tier. I think this is maybe if we got to see a little bit more, you could make a push for D tier, B tier here, but I do think this is a good cover. And sometimes, you know, when I investigate novels, I do go a lot on the cover for what I'll like. Yeah, this is worth me taking a closer look at and reading about, because if you're just going to read everything when you're doing research, you'll never get anywhere. So I go by recommendations with what people tell me, and also like, that's a cool cover. Let's take a look at it. But if there's a list with 100 books, the cover does definitely help a lot, and I remember that cover capturing my imagination. And in a bookstore, might pick it up, might not. So it's maybe on the cusp of A, but I still think it's worth an A in terms of cover, even though the contents is. So speaking of D tier, this isn't D tier in terms of cover, but the contents here is S tier, in my opinion. But the cover here barely scrapes by as a C tier. I think this is okay, but it's right on the cusp, right? It's not D tier. It's not as bad as this, or it's not as bad as John Truby's fucking chairs, right? So as much as I love A Face Like Glass, Hardinge, you're not doing yourself any favors with this. This popped up as a at a list with just a few, like I have 10, 15, 20 books or something. This popped up and I read about it. But based on the cover, I would not pick this up in a bookstore and just kind of look closer at it necessarily. Um, but definitely not based on the cover. But yeah, so I love this novel. It's one of the absolute standouts for the year, but not when it comes to the cover. Okay, so this one was a little hard for me when I first took a look at it. I actually moved it just now as well because at first glance this looks okay. But then I'm thinking, what are these things? Is it mountains? No, I think it's supposed to be space. I don't remember that many snowy mountains or that being that particularly significant. So I suppose this is what's his name. Does it mention his name here in the back? Saren or Savin or whatever it was called. Anyway, nah, this is a C tier for me at best because clearly this is an important character, and I don't think it's. I think the Mass Effect logo and everything is recognizable enough, and I guess that's what you need to get across. So it does what it's supposed to. I also think the side here is pretty cool. Here, this one is not even B tier. I think C tier is where this one's at. Yeah. Okay. So if you wanted to argue this one down to an A tier, I would hear you out. But because of how good this book is and how striking the cover is was for me, and this is a classic one where whoa, I saw this and I kept remembering it. I remembered this. It's why I was so like, because it was quite expensive for a very short novella. It costs like, I don't know, close to like $30-40 for a fucking for a novella that's what, like 137 pages, and you know, not very. I'm not a cheapskate or anything, but that felt a little steep for the ask, and potentially what could be, you know, a bad novella as well. But this one is great. I really like it. It's one of the last books that we reviewed within the 2025 year, but or time frame, I was gonna say, whatever. But the cover really does to me stand out as something like, okay, what's gonna happen here? And I do think it represents the jungle and the forest is a huge thing of this planet where they are. This whole murder bot, you don't know, is it good, is it evil? And I think that the novella kind of tackles that. I think the font here, all systems red. I think there's a lot of good shit with a pretty simple cover here compared to something like this, or even something like this. To me, this really does stand out, and I would pick this up, and I did remember it. So this is an S tier for me, but if you were to argue with me, I wouldn't be pissed. Okay, so I guess it wasn't only S tiers because here we got Homage to Catalonia, and while this for its contents is great shit, George Orwell doesn't really, you know, it doesn't exactly give me a boner. Um, I think I think it just looks boring, and it's not boring, so it doesn't do the book any service. I don't think it's terrible or nothing, but B tier feels a little too generous for this. So it is pretty in some way, like this nice old picture, right, and this little white space here. It's not terrible, but I don't think it's not doing the book any favor. So I am gonna put it in C tier. I think, yeah, I think that's where it belongs for me. So speaking of Orwell, we got Animal Farm, which I think is not spectacular, but when you combine it with this and it becomes this kind of like little series and that they both have the same theme, when you do that, I guess they become stronger together. But imagine this standing in a bookstore like this, and then this somewhere else. If you didn't know these, would you really pick them up? And you're supposed to know them, kind of, so maybe that's what they're leaning on. I don't know, but I think both of these together deserve a B tier. I don't think either of them is particularly great. Maybe 1984 is a little bit better, but I mean, I think when you can make covers that feel so much more modern like this, and yes, this I would pick up. These just feels like old books that some college professor think is important, but are they actually? I don't know. So B tier for Animal Farm, B tier for 1984, and even I could see how you if you would love these, but to me they feel a little too old and just yeah, not sexy enough. I like something a bit more modern, or at least something that has a bit more style, like this one, where it has just so much ambiance, right? So either way, I think I think they deserve they deserve to be in B tier for my tier list. Yes. So here is the other only F tier, and it comes from one of the best books of the year, and it's so funny when this happens. I mean, what the fuck is going on? Are you watching this shit? Look at this. What the fuck are these? What are these? Are these supposed to be dartboards, or is it supposed to be a pool ball? What the fuck's going on? What is this, like little from a movie or something, or is it just some random like fucking what's his name, the guy from Bev 90210's crotch or something? What the fuck's going on here? Walter Tevis, the hustler. F tier. This is one of the ugliest covers. It's even worse than Gatsby, for God's sake. Awful, just awful. Contents wise, great. Cover wise, fuck that cover. And then he goes ahead and does this. I know he's top writing this fucking actress, I forgot her name, but I know this is cheating, right? You got sexy Netflix logos, but come on! How much like those eyes, the way she sits, which isn't indicative of the book or nothing. So it's a little bullshit, but for God's sakes, I spoof this on my goddamn podcast cover. No. This is A tier, and I think that's fair. And I think it's fair for a couple of reasons, but man, does this stick out. I think I even talk about it in the review. Like, god damn, this one. This one has a lot of chutzpah, which is a word you can use apparently. But Makia Lucier, always so insecure with the names, makes a rather mediocre book, to be honest, but it's got a lot of vibe and a lot of heart at the very least. But yeah, it doesn't really deliver on this kick-ass character because she's a real crybaby in the book and she cries a lot. If I see this, I'm expecting a sorcerer or a warrior or something, not a big crybaby. So while it doesn't represent the novel very well, at least a lot of this shit is still important, and the tattoos and shit. So it's still, and it's such a nice cover too. But this I basically gravitated toward this because of the cover, and then I found out like, oh, this is probably for young teens and shit. This is not a very Ogren-esque book, but still I think it does an okay job as a cover. But it's not an S tier. I think in some ways I'm being a little generous with it being in A tier because of its misrepresentation. But on the other hand, like, nah, it's an A tier. What a striking cover, right? So the other Makia book, Jesus, every time I'm so afraid of it. The other Makia book is Year of the Reaper, and fuck me, I love this cover. To me, this is just, oh my god. The mace isn't maybe as important as it seems here, but it could just be like a what do you call it? Like a what do you like, crown, not crown of arms, like a banner of arms, maybe, whatever, like a some sort of hallmark or symbol. And the thing is, for how little fighting there is in this novel, I think I addressed this as well in my review. But regardless, it is a pretty good novel. But this cover just made me pause. So I guess Makia really knows how to make good covers. I think this is S tier. This is a much better way for me than you know, a boring looking character. Just focus on the key point. And this is just, I don't know, this really speaks to me, so I really like that cover. And if the astute one will know that there is only one author missing, I hopefully haven't missed any other books. It's very possible that I missed some, because I noticed, like, when I counted my book, I don't think I counted 185 tips of storybook fantasy world building writing in my, it wasn't on this other list that I did when I counted statistics, but I'm not even sure. But let's hope that that these are all the books. I think so. But there is one writer missing, and it's Becky Chambers. And wow, this it's not the entire series this year, but it's most of it, but with all three books. So let's look at them one at a time and my reasoning. So this is book 4, and it's just beautiful. It doesn't quite push it up to S tier. Of course, having it like this in the bookshelf is really nice, you know, with the spine here. But it's not quite there. I guess the long names and everything, and you know, the not capital lettering and stuff. Not quite, but I do love the way it bleeds over in the text here with the coloring. So it is a beautiful cover, but it doesn't quite get there. Same with this one. I feel as if it's a solid A tier, but it doesn't quite get up to S tier. But both of them are beautiful. Here's where the standout is. So this novel, I think, there's something a bit more striking to me with this one than the other two. So I am gonna push this up to S tier. Maybe that's bullshit. You could argue for it in A tier. I would hear you out, but yeah, there's something about this to me that does stick out a little bit extra. Maybe because I have a soft spot. I have a softer spot for this as well. I don't know. Don't have the first one here. Otherwise, we would maybe toss that in for comparison. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do with that one. So. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the podcast.